Hello and welcome to Webheads Comic Club. This is, of course, our podcast where we are reading and reviewing every single issue of Amazing Spider-Man all the way back from issue 1 in 1962 to current day at almost 900. I am joined by my co-host, JP Creations.
JP, yeah.
How are you doing,
Hello.
good sir? How was your couple of weeks? It's been a couple of weeks since our last episode.
It's been a wild couple of weeks, but I'm happy to finally actually get to books that we haven't read yet. Because again, last week's episode was a redo.
Yeah.
And I felt we've been stuck on those 5 issues for a month.
Yeah. Last 2 weeks ago. Look, we're trying to get on a regular weekly schedule. I promise.
It's mostly my fault.
He's not wrong, but also the health COVID stuff that I've been dealing with is also a factor as well. That's why I haven't been the YouTube in general, my around the boxes and everything. I haven't been weekly at all. So we're trying to get back on a regular schedule. Really, if you leave a thumbs up on the YouTube video on YouTube or give it a 5-star rating on the podcast platforms, that will really motivate us to do weekly.
If you give us a rating on Spotify, I may think about reading the books not an hour before we have to do the podcast.
That'll be the day we become professionals. Speaking of becoming professionals, I wanted to apologize last episode. Look, we're still learning, all right? We're constantly evolving. Last episode, I messed up the audio balancing a little bit, so you were a bit quieter than I was. And, of course, as I'm sure you guys have noticed by now, I was gasping for air a lot. As you know, we missed a month of the podcast because I was out with COVID and lasting effects, still having breathing issues. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm seeing doctors, all of that. I just really am trying to protect you guys from having to hear me gasping for air the entire podcast. So try and slim things a little bit differently this week. We have the audio balanced, hopefully better. I'm going to be trying to mute my mic when I'm not talking, so I'm not just gasping constantly. But yeah, I listened back to the podcast last episode and I was like, oh God, like
Our audio listeners are gonna love it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I know that someone is seething somewhere, so we're trying, we're getting there, we're learning. And last thing I want to address before we kick into this week's issues. As I mentioned, we are constantly evolving, constantly trying new things on this podcast. We're going to do things a little bit differently today, so we do want your guys' feedback. If you are listening on podcast platforms, you can head over to YouTube. My channel is DA Comics. That's where every episode goes live. And I'd love some comments down below which you prefer, the way we do things today or the way we did them in past episodes. Typically, in past episodes, we would just kind of go through page by page and discuss the story as we kind of summarize it. We want to try things a little bit differently today, constantly looking for improvement, so we're going to be doing kind of a quick summary of the book and then just kind of discussing whatever it is that stood out to us about it, favorite moments, least favorite moments, takeaways, things like that. So it'll be a little bit more of a discussion, a little bit less of just kind of flipping through the comic book.
Right, exactly. And we'll hopefully, be a little bit shorter, be a little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
For your car ride, for your commute.
We're shooting for the golden hour 15, hour 30
yeah.
Length because we don't want them to be too long for you guys. But yeah, all I can really say, we're trying to get better. So, I mean, if you've been enjoying the podcast the way it is, then let us know in the comments down below. Don't change a thing, but I am a big fan of trying to improve, so we will be doing that.
Yes.
With that said, and unless you have anything else you wanted to mention at the top of the show,
I'm ready to go.
All right. This week, we are diving into The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 25. We are already a quarter of the way through the first 100 issues. How does that feel?
This episode will end with him graduating. It will end the high school arc.
Is it the last?
Yeah.
Oh, I am. So.
No, okay. Well, not the last issue. The
pretty close.
Second last.
Pretty close. High school is coming to an end, which it's weird to me that high school only lasted 28 issues. Because when you think of Peter Parker, I mean, you think of high school kid. And obviously, that's the way he was originally. But it's weird that, it really wasn't. If you look at the whole length of the Amazing Spider-Man series, it is just a fraction of that time.
Very short.
That he was in high school.
Yeah, again, a couple of years that it took for the 28 issues to come out, and probably a couple of years in time, and in the universe time as well, compared to the decades that will come.
I think, and I don't know if they mentioned this in the comic book, but wasn't it his sophomore year that he got bit?
Yes.
Okay. I know that's what they're doing for the MCU, or no?
He was no, it's called freshman year.
Freshman year, that's right, yeah.
He was 15.
He was 15, which I think would be sophomore year, which makes sense, because it's been about 2 years. Maybe freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's been a while. I try not to. I try not to think about high school.
It depends when you were born, I guess, right? What
Yeah,
month?
yeah, that's true. But yeah, so today we are discussing issue 25 through 29. So if you are reading along with us, go ahead and read those comic books. I will always recommend this every single episode. We will summarize them for those of you who aren't reading it, but nothing beats reading the comic yourself.
Yep.
And with that said, would you like to cover the summary or shall I?
You got this one. You know I got to do issue 26 myself.
That's true. You can do 26, 27. Quick summary for those of you who did not read these comic books. 25. This was the sleeper issue, in my opinion, because last episode we talked about not really looking forward to this one out of all the other ones.
I don't think this was the sleeper issue. I think 28 was the sleeper issue.
28? We'll get to that. But I really liked this issue.
Right.
25 is the first real appearance of the Spider Slayers as commissioned by J. Jonah Jameson. So the story starts off with Peter kind of just doing his usual Spider-Man thing, and he's trying to make a spare costume, just kind of the maintenance work of being a superhero. It goes through the Daily Bugle, and we'll discuss that in a second, but he notices someone that I want to point out when we get there. But a guy comes in, Alistair Smythe, and he's trying to sell him a robot, basically, a Spider Slayer. So JJ says, he's crazy, and Peter, being arrogant, says, oh, no, you should do it, like, you should get this Spider Slayer. So JJ does, and it has these tangling coils of metal that can sense his spider aura and wrap around him. So they wrap around Peter, and luckily his identity is not given away. Everyone thinks that it was just a faulty machine, but ultimately the comic kind of concludes with Peter going out as Spider-Man, the Spider Slayer finding him at his school. They mention getting close to graduation, and then he kind of goes on the run and tries to beat this Spider Slayer. JJ laughing maniacally the whole time. Betty trying to help Spider-Man from the Daily Bugle, and ultimately Spider-Man getting the best of the machine, using his big brain and science to kind of mess around with it, and making a fool of JJ yet again, and losing his costume in the process.
Yes.
Now, takeaways. I'm gonna pass it over to you, and then I got my big one. What was your what would you like to discuss here?
Honestly, so I finished this. I closed the book, or ended it, and I was like, this is just. It's a very nice standalone story. It's got a little bit of everything. It kind of feels like an episode of a Spider-Man cartoon. Just like 20 minutes, you're in, you're out, you get the full package. It's a good standalone story for what we obviously there's a lot of lead up to it, but just a very solid issue as in a whole. Like that's my main thing.
Kind of like the culmination of JJ's villain arc,
Pretty much.
which we don't talk about this enough. Like J. Jonah Jameson is a villain in the Spider-Man comic books. Like he is a villain. He is an antagonist at least.
And another thing is this would be really cool to see in the MCU, especially with how JJ is in the MCU and how it's obviously in the future with, he's more of a podcast / show than he is.
Crazier in the MCU than he was in the Raimi
It'd be
movies.
Cool to see this as maybe the first half of a movie as like a little.
I would love to see
plot
JJ
point.
with Spider Slayers in the MCU. I think that would be
that'd be
awesome.
sick.
My big takeaway that I almost said during the summary, and then I forgot that the whole purpose of doing the summary was to do takeaways after. Do you see that person that JJ is talking to when Peter first walks into the Daily Bugle?
Hold on now.
There is a panel where he's walking in, and JJ says, "Don't worry about a thing. I'll take care of your ad personally, and I'll see you at the club tonight." And the guy he's talking to is a middle-aged white guy, red hair, got waves.
Oh yeah, I did that.
This is definitely Norman Osborn.
But I didn't think okay, but do you actually think it's Norman Osborn?
I do. I definitely. The art looks exactly like him. I think it's Norman Osborn. I think they're starting to. I think the creative team was starting to be like, all right, let's start teasing his identity, but not like as a Green Goblin, but like let's start putting this guy in, so that you can later learn that he's Norman Osborn because he's about to go to college. We're about to meet Harry Osborn. Norman Osborn's about to be in here. I think this is the first appearance of Norman Osborn.
Well, it doesn't look like waves. It looks like a separate like a middle part. You got the expert here. Let me see.
It's the Norman Osborn look. Look at that face.
No,
You're telling me you don't recognize? He even has the hat from the Green Goblin issues.
They might be teasing that it is the Green Goblin, but I don't know if they. Well, they didn't even know that Norman Osborn was going to be the Green Goblin until.
Well, maybe this is them because his first like Norman Osborn's coming in the series very soon. I think
37.
this is Steve Ditko and Stan Lee starting to be like, okay, we're gonna be introducing this character pretty soon. Let's start teasing him because we know they plan ahead. I mean, they teased. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking completely. What was it that we were like building up to for a really long time? They teased a character or a storyline. Was it Betty Brant and everything with that?
I think it was just Jay Jonah in general.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that they're getting to the point now where they're at issue 25. They're like, all right, we're going to plan long term.
Well, I have it in my little notes. They pretty much, I think, foreshadowed issue 30 and issue 29, which we'll get to. But
Right, exactly. So I think this is definitely Norman Osborn. They're setting up that he's buddy with JJ. He mentions, "Oh, I'll see you at the club tonight." Like, this is obviously, why would they put that there if it wasn't
and I guess
someone of
Goblin's
importance?
the next 2 issues.
Exactly. So I think they're starting to sprinkle Easter eggs. I don't see why they would have him talking to that person. And he even says, "Oh, he's with someone. Must be someone important." JJ's smiling. Like, they put emphasis on the importance of this guy.
I didn't catch that.
I think it's Norman Osborn. I read that and immediately was like, holy crap, this is Norman Osborn. Like, I know this guy.
Now I'm going to have to get issue 25.
Yeah, it is. I actually really liked issue 25 after reading it. I really was not expecting to, but
Do
it
you
was
have
a
issue
lot of
25?
fun. I do not. I want it now. Doing this podcast has made me want so many of the old issues that I didn't really care as much about. This is one of them. 10 is
I will
another
be
one.
honest. I will be honest. I don't really like the Spider Slayers thing. I think it's kind of. I think after this issue, it's kind of cool how they brought it back a little bit, which again we'll get to. But I don't know. I mean, they come back obviously, right? This is not the only time it appears. Right.
I think I have a little bit more nostalgia towards the Spider Slayers myself, just because for 2 reasons. One, growing up with the '90s Spider-Man cartoon, Spider Slayers were like Smythe was a big character in that. But the other reason is because growing up, the first comic books that I ever read of Spider-Man was the '90s run, which I can't wait to get to on this podcast. And they had a Spider Slayers storyline that I had picked up as a kid, and I remember just loving it. And it was just really, I think it was like a 3-part storyline or something like that. We will be getting there in like episode 30. But so I really like Spider Slayers. I do think it gets a little overdone, which is I think what you were kind of mentioning. But
and I honestly, I mean, to me, they're kind of like, other than this, I feel like after this, I'm gonna be kind of a little bit bored of it personally.
I am getting a little sick of like robots just like being like, "I'm here to kill Spider-Man." Like,
right. And another thing is I feel like I hope this is the last time they use this whole like Jay Jonah tries to attack Spider-Man by becoming or making a supervillain. He knows he's gonna get probably humiliated. He hopes he doesn't get humiliated.
You think
But then
JJ has learned his lesson?
But then he does get humiliated. I just hope they
it's getting a
switch it up a little bit.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the Human Torch stuff. So if we can switch it up after this issue, but I think it's a good cap on it.
They found what worked, and they're like, we're going to do this. I do think that JJ is going to kind of fade away a little bit now, just knowing the issues that are coming up. I don't think that he's going to be as big of a villain. Yep. Still a huge side character, but we're about to get into some new supervillains and obviously some huge Green Goblin issues that are coming up. So very much looking forward to that. That should be in a few episodes, so make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast, and you'll see this one that's come out. But anyway, I do like that the Robo Tentacles actually pose like a decent threat against Spider-Man, so I did think that was pretty cool to see.
It's interesting how pretty much Betty disliking Peter this time around is because he originally told Jameson to like use the Spider Slayer and capture Spider-Man, and she was like, but he saved me and he saved your aunt.
Yeah, it's kind of a classic like Peter's arrogance, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't take this guy seriously, and he's just like, oh, I'll have some fun with it. I think he was trying to get on JJ's good side, right? Because he wanted him to pay him more or something.
I think he wanted pictures of the fight or something like that.
Yeah, so he kind of did it
He's
to
like,
himself.
Oh, it'll fight me, I can take pictures and it'll be easy money or something, if I remember correctly.
He didn't take the threat very seriously, but I do...
But he was trying to trip over the wire and stuff.
I was going to say, I love how she's, like, mad at Peter, which we've talked about it last episode. I'm just waiting for this relationship to end.
Yeah,
like, Betty is not going to happen, and also Liz is not going to happen. But Betty being mad at Peter, but trying to help Spider-Man is a little bit more of that irony of, like, the two identities kind of colliding a little bit. I did
And
also.
there was the classic, Liz and Betty kind of back and forth in this issue, which might be
With
the
the
last
with
time we
the
see
with
that.
the bubbles with the like
The
icy.
the, yeah, the icy
I love that. That's some
bubbles.
great lettering. Who would that be? The letterer who does that, or is that Steve Ditko? I don't
I'm
know.
not sure.
Whoever did that, they're doing a great job. Best in the biz. I guess everyone working on this book is the best in the biz, but
I mean, right.
um, but yeah, kind of more typical Flash Liz stuff. Flash being like, "I'm gonna beat up Peter," and Liz being like, "Don't, I like him." That is
Flash
also getting kind of old.
was straight up waiting outside Peter's house until like I think the cops showed up.
Yeah, it's we've seen it all before. Flash trying to beat up Peter, Liz trying to stop him, Betty being mad at Peter, JJ being
It
a
was
straight up villain. I'm ready for this high school era to end because it is getting a bit repetitive.
definitely, and there was some Mary Jane action in this one where we didn't get to see her face, but
Oh
we got to
yeah.
see her body as well as everyone's reaction to her.
We get to realize that she is not ugly.
So they say.
So they say. I mean, from what we saw of her, she looks pretty good. And the girls are like, she's beautiful.
It's an actor, or well, I don't know what the hell.
So
It's a
that
model.
I thought that was really funny. I didn't expect that. I didn't know that MJ appeared in this issue.
Not in this
That's
issue, I didn't know, but
that's two first appearance cameos. Mary Jane and Norman Osborn.
unconfirmed Norman Osborn. But this issue pretty much wraps up a story arc that will continue on into the next two issues. I think two issues, where Peter makes pretty much a puppet of himself or whatever
Yeah,
out of
with his
his
costume.
suit, and then he webs up the inside, so he loses the suit, and he's gonna have to deal with that into the next story.
Well, it's double trouble because he loses the suit to JJ, which
Mhm.
we've talked about Raimi influence. You have to think that he got the influence for that. I mean, I know that's kind of based around issue 50, and we'll get to that. But JJ getting the suit. But he had his second one that he was working on at the beginning of the issue. Now it's time for us to talk about your Aunt May theory.
I still think it's
She
true.
found a Spider-Man costume in his room. I think at this point she has to know.
Oh no, she definitely knows.
She literally
She's known
like
since that one issue.
she literally walks out and she's like, I found this Spider-Man costume. And he plays it off as like, oh, I was just using it as a costume. And she's like, that's irresponsible. But there's no way that she is dumb and doesn't.
She's not that doting.
Yeah.
She's doting supposedly, but she's not that doting.
I don't think
Dotting.
when Stanley wrote this, I don't think that he had like, I don't think that he wrote it that she figured it out. But later in the series, when it's revealed that she knew all along, I think this is a pretty obvious moment for this, or the last few issues is a pretty obvious moment for when she figured it out, which is really early into his career.
For sure. I mean, like I said, I think she knew in that one issue. I think this is her just trying to either get more out of him or protect him in any way she thinks that she can.
Trying to, yeah, but why wouldn't she just confront him though?
Because she probably knows that he thinks like he's gonna freak out if
Yeah, I guess.
she knows that he knows, or he knows that she knows.
If he knows that she knows that he knows that she knows.
Then it's gonna just be a mess. And really, right now, she's trying to deal with it the best she can.
Yeah. Yeah. But like you said, this does set up the big storyline of he doesn't have a costume, and
Which is
that
pretty good. I
ends
like
up
that.
being really important in the next issue. But
It also confirms that he has two suits. I don't know if that was confirmed before. So he has two suits. He has.
well, he was working on it in this one. He was like, I need a spare, and then he lost both of them.
And then he lost it immediately.
Yeah, which I really like, and we'll talk about it more in the next issue. But him losing the costume, I do think that's a really fun kind of, it connects the stories a little bit. But overall, before we move on to issue 26, overall thoughts on 25. Now, it is a little bit formulaic and repetitive with what we've seen in the other Spider-Man issues, you know, like we already talked about, JJ and Flash and all of this stuff. I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
But I would probably rank it at like a 6.57 out of 10.
Exactly 6.5 is what I was thinking.
Yeah, like it's good, but it's not a game changer, you know? It's not this legendary issue.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot of cool little things in there that people that know the movies or just know classic Spider-Man are going to enjoy. Overall, It was alright.
It was alright. But we're diving in to issue number 26. Obviously a legendary Green Goblin appearance. Now this is the beginning of a two-parter, which I really like. This is like a solid two-parter. It's not like fully continuation. Go ahead and hit us with the summary for issue 26.
Well, 26, 27, so they are two parts.
I do have this one as well. I thought I would just flash that on the video. I have both 26 and 27, which is
I do as well.
I'm glad now that I've read them because I really like these.
You
issues.
gotta have the copies and them as well.
But anyway, continue with your summary. Yours look a little higher grade than mine do, but I'm just glad to have them.
I don't know about all that. It's the shiny top loader probably.
Mine are low to mid grade, but they're good. They're
Well,
solid.
so am I. I mean, that's where you gotta go. That's where else gotta go. Low to mid grade. I mean, we're not getting 8.5s around here. It's gonna cost $1,000 for like a back.
That is true. That is true.
Anyway, so it's kind of like a whodunit. These two, not really whodunit, but who really the big story over these next two issues is who is the crime master. But stick with 26. So obviously, starting off, we pretty much get on right away with the Green Goblin and the Crime Master trying to pair up. Very interesting thing, they both revealed their identities to each other. Green Goblin knows who Crime Master is, Crime Master knows Goblin is. And immediately Crime Master's like, you know what? Just kidding. Now I know who you are. You're out. I'm going to become the boss of the underworld. And if you try to do anything, people are going to know who you are. But on the same token, Green Goblin can tell everybody who the Crime Master is. So, we're pretty much led to believe right off the gate, though, that the Crime Master is Frederick Foswell, which is, as we know, is the big man.
The big man.
With the Enforcers. And he pretty much goes around and starts to try to control the underworld by pretty much going to every mob boss and general organization and threaten them, blowing up cars, throwing in rocks with papers on them, and just kind of generally trying to beat people up. At one point, he literally just kills somebody. He just popped the cap in one of the bosses.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much when people start really falling in line, when he starts killing people. So this guy's ruthless. The Green Goblin's just kind of around at this point. And it's also at this point where Spider-Man obviously needs a costume. He doesn't have a costume. He ends up buying a Spider-Man costume from a store. Doesn't really fit him.
Reminds me of Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes. Doesn't really fit him. He tries to web up the costume to make it stick. There's a fight between, obviously, the Crime Master, Spider-Man, going, and then we pretty much end up at the end of the issue with the Green Goblin and the Crime Master, both at the docks with all the mob. Pretty much what we come down to is Spider-Man's at this docks, Green Goblin ends up at this docks, and all the mob is at the docks. Pretty much, they're trying to see who's going to become the leader. Pretty much, the Crime Master is going to say, pretty much, it's me. Green Goblin has different plans. He sees Spider-Man. He ends up actually getting the best of Spider-Man. Spider-Man gets knocked out, and we end the issue with the Crime Master like, listen, guys, I'm the boss. Then out of the back comes the Green Goblin with limp Spider-Man saying, hold up.
I'm the boss.
I'm the boss.
Love that ending. That was such a good cliffhanger ending that I was like, I'm seeing this from the perspective of reading these back in the 60s. I would have been waiting for the next issue after that. I mean, Green Goblin gets the best of him, and you mentioned he webbed up his costume because it didn't fit right. Green Goblin tried to unmask him. He would have had him, but it was webbed up, so he couldn't get it off.
Pretty good.
But he just takes him. I mean, that's the biggest. I want to see that in a movie, man. Imagine a room full of mob bosses. He's like, I'm in charge, and then you just see the body of Spider-Man drop down on the ground, and Green Goblin's like, I'm in charge.
What a way that would be to introduce him in the MCU, though. You don't really know he's coming, and then boom.
Would they show him beating Spider-Man, or would it just be that first? Maybe they show him, but they don't show him. Like Spider-Man swinging, some gas hits him, and
imagine the end of the movie is like this is happening, and then you see Spider-Man just limp on the ground, and you don't even see the Green Goblin, just hear his voice say nah, listen here,
charge.
And you
Excuse me.
have to wait 2 years for the next movie. That wouldn't be fun.
That would not. Well, it would be a good cliffhanger ending.
That would be.
But I love that, and I love this issue. These two, and we're focusing on this one, first one for now. These 2 issues is probably my favorite Green Goblin arc that we've had so far.
Definitely, and honestly, and we'll talk about it more when 27 rolls around. And at the end of 27, which we'll get to, this story arc, this 2-part story, is what makes the Green Goblin what we know of him right now.
Yep, it's way better. Like 23 was good. I know you love
23 was
Goblin
good.
and the Gangsters, but I still think that his plan is really stupid in that issue, and that kind of ruined it for me. This issue is a little bit different. It shocked me that he actually revealed his identity to Frederick, or not to the Crime Master, and it continues to play on that, like, who's the Green Goblin, who's the Crime Master, we don't know, but it is a lot of fun seeing him. And the Crime Master, he's not that interesting, to be honest, but having him opposing the Green Goblin kind of makes him interesting.
He's like Big Man Light.
Yeah, it's like he at one point he like rappels down a building, like chucks a thing in a window, and then just like keeps going. Like it's like
a rock with a paper.
He has no special abilities. The only thing interesting about him is the mystery around his identity, and you obviously are meant to think that it's Frederick Foswell. But
it's wild that he actually revealed his identity. It is pretty insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you would think like Green Goblin would just trust someone that much right away to reveal his identity to them.
There is one part that I wanted to show or wanted to mention. So there's at some point where I think it's in the first couple pages where they're talking about what's going on with Peter. They show what's going on with Green Goblin and Crime Master. They show talking about Roswell. And then I think they show something about Flash and everybody, and they flips the page, and there's a text that says, "Now that everyone's thoroughly confused," and then we go back to like some regular stuff. It was just kind of funny because you're reading this, and you're like, okay. Now that everyone's confused, let's get back to.
It's like, now that you don't know who's who, what's going on, let's continue.
It's like now that everyone's thoroughly confused, let's return to Peter Parker.
One noteworthy thing to mention about this issue is we do get our first real glimpse of Flash being a kind of good guy. We've seen a little bit of it, but not really big moments. But obviously him and Peter get into a fight. The principal sees and Peter gets in trouble. Flash overhears him saying that it was all his fault. And so Flash he goes to the principal and he says like, hey, Peter shouldn't get in trouble. It was all my fault. It was a good thing to do.
Right.
Of course, later, Peter confronts him about it, and he's like, I didn't do it for you. I did it. He sticks behind his facade. But I think that Stan, in this issue, did a really good job of writing the bully.
Right.
Where it's like he's hiding behind this facade. He's acting a certain way, but you kind of see his real self shine through for a second. And you see that he's not a bad guy.
Which we saw a little bit, even in earlier issues, thinking to himself a little bit like, maybe I shouldn't be that hard on him or this and that. But now we actually see him act on that under the guise of what we'll get to in the next issue, right?
Right, exactly.
But yeah, Crime Master just kills some guy. He also at one point knocks Spider-Man off the building, pretty much doesn't look, and then says, I've done it, I've defeated Spider-Man. He'll never bother me or anybody else again.
The typical Stan Lee villain.
I can't do this, dude.
The typical Stan, especially as Spider-Man's falling, he pulls his mask off. So literally, if he was just watching him fall, he would have seen his identity, seen that he lived. He's like, I did it. I defeated him.
He's like, oh, well.
But it sets it up for the great ending when Green Goblin comes in. He's like, I defeated him. And Crime Master's like, I thought I defeated him. They're just like dead. Fighting over who beat him. Spider-Man has taken some L's in these issues.
I think we have a little bit more Sam Raimi influence when obviously Spider-Man gets knocked out on top of the rooftop, and the Green Goblin is just like sitting right next to him over there at that one panel.
Yep. Love that. So Green Goblin Crime Master fight, not much to talk about there. I think the biggest thing to talk about is Green Goblin beats Spider-Man in a fight again.
I mean, it's just
how many times is that? He's gotten away a couple of times, but he's beaten him a couple of times too. He can't get him.
Green Goblin early on ends up running away a lot.
He does, yeah. Which is
even in the next
smart
issue,
play, I guess.
He even says it. He says any something like any leader knows when it's time to call
Yeah.
it quits and back off.
Yeah. But he straight up beats him. Tries to pull off the mask. It's webbed on. I don't know why he doesn't just rip it. Seems kind of lazy, but anyway.
Yeah, super strength.
But the ending, man, I love that. That last panel is just awesome. You see Crime
awesome.
Master with his fist raised, and Green Goblin's just like, no, I'm the leader.
I like how one of the mobsters says, "He captured him. What's gonna happen next?"
Yeah, perfect cliffhanger. What's gonna happen next?
That's perfect.
Let's find out what's gonna happen next. But before we dive into the next issue, where do you rate this one? How do you feel about it?
7.5.
Interesting.
I would say I don't think about the ratings either. You hit me with them, and I'm like,
yeah, I'm
Cool.
thinking on the fly here, which is probably the most genuine
yes.
rating.
I think it's a really good book. I think I liked it a lot better once I read issue 27. I think they tie in. Obviously, it's a continuing story, but I think issue 27 and how this ends and wraps up makes this issue more enjoyable.
I would rate this about a 7.
Right.
But the ending alone is going to make me bump it up to a 7.5. I'll agree with you on the 7.5. Because that ending, I think, was just... I loved it. It was awesome.
We are on this back-to-back, two of the same rating, 6.5, 7.5. Wait till we get the Scorpion issue, and then we're going to go off the rails.
We'll see. If it's anything like issue 20, then we'll...
What's your hatred for Scorpion?
We'll have a discussion about the Scorpion. But we got to dive into part 2 of 27. Did you want to summarize this one as well, or shall I?
I might as well, and you can get the next two.
Go for it.
Yeah, next two.
Yeah.
All right. Bring Back My Goblin to Me, issue
Classic.
27.
Classic.
I love that. Maybe not just as much, but maybe a little less than Goblin the Gangsters. Bring Back My Goblin to Me. For whatever reason, I say that to myself a lot. Bring back my goblin to me.
Just sitting in your room.
For real, I don't know. I'll see it like they used to be on my wall, and they probably, hopefully, will be soon again as a nice backdrop. But I'll see it. Like, bring back my. Come on.
I like that more than the Goblin and the Gangsters. That's just, I don't know. It has a nice, like, almost. This is gonna sound weird, but almost like a romantic vibe. Not like it sounds like a romance comic. You know, like bring back my love to me, but it's bring back my goblin to me.
Yeah, actually, I like it a lot. It's pretty
I just
sick.
think it's fun.
The taglines on these books are awesome. Stanley's like issue 29, which we'll get to. Never step on a scorpion. Love that. Anyway, so we pick up right where we left off with issue 26. Everyone's turned against the Crime Master. He's old news. They chain up Spider-Man real nice and good. The Green Goblin's now in charge at this point. Spider-Man wakes up, and even though he's all enchained, he's still whooping some ass right now. He is flipping around, bashing into people. Crime Master shooting Spider-Man. He flips out of the way. Goblin blasts his finger lasers, misses them. They almost get each other. Spider-Man's able to break loose the chains. Cops come because someone tipped them off. A new character that we have been introduced, Patch, who has an eye patch, is pretty much a snitch for the cops at this point that we know him. And so he tipped the cops off about this meeting. The cops show up, 3 cops, and these three cops of Spider-Man pretty much start fighting the entire underworld at this point on these docks. I guess it's a boathouse or something. Right?
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, boathouse, something like that.
And it's a good 3 pages of this fight, and it's pretty awesome. Crime Master ends up ducking away and trying to get away. Spider-Man follows him through the sewers, and Crime Master ends up getting away. At this point, Spider-Man still thinks it's Foswell. He's thought that the Crime Master Foswell is either the Green Goblin or the Crime Master.
Yeah.
So through both these issues, he's been repeatedly going back to Foswell's house to see if he's there. Then he would check the Bugle to see if he's there. So that's what he does. So after Crime Master gets away, he checks Foswell's house. He doesn't find him. But Crime Master is following Spider-Man at this point. He goes to the Daily Bugle. Foswell is now there, or ends up coming back there. Then we see it. While Foswell, J. Jonah Jameson, and Spider-Man are in the Daily Bugle, across the way in the next building, there's the Crime Master with his gun. It's not Foswell. Someone else. We don't know who it is. But out from behind a little chimney, a couple cops. There's a gunfight ensues, and the Crime Master is killed.
Yep. And he's revealed to be
Some random guy that we don't know.
Nobody.
Nobody. What was his name? Something Nicky.
Where is it?
Yeah, Nicky Lucky Lewis. Just some gangster, pretty much. And Spider-Man dips out. Obviously, Crime Master is killed, and we find out at the end of the issue, pretty much, that Foswell the whole time was the character Patch. He was wearing a mask. He was the one that was snitching on everybody. Foswell is still in it. Maybe.
So that is, I think, the first thing we should discuss. Foswell and the Crime Master's identity. It's revealed that he's not the Crime Master, right? At least seemingly. But then he says at the end, he grabs his package, he's like, I pulled the wool over Spider-Man's eyes, I got away with it. I think they're wanting readers to guess that he's the Green Goblin.
I would say so.
I don't think he is. Well, we know he is.
Well, he revealed himself as Patch, though.
Yeah, but even after he's revealed his patch, though, it shows him leaving the Daily Bugle, and he's like, I tricked Spider-Man. Like, they still haven't guessed my secret. What's his secret?
He's Patch.
But he revealed that. What's his other secret?
Not to them. He revealed it to us.
I thought he revealed it to them.
No, they don't know he's Patch.
Okay. Okay. All right. I guess I just misread that then.
They don't know he's Patch?
Well, continuing about Crime Master's identity.
I don't know. It was still a little bit iffy to me. I don't know. It was kind of weird.
You may not remember, but a few episodes ago on this podcast, I said, oh, Crime Master's coming up. Do you know who he is? And you were like, no, I don't know who he is. And I was like, oh, I found out who he is, and I'm excited to see what you think. I was wrong, which means... Because I had seen somewhere that it said, Crime Master is this person. And I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that. And then I got to the ending of this, and I was actually genuinely surprised. Because I was like, that's not who it is. Like, what is going on here?
Who did you say it was?
I don't know if I should say because it might still happen.
Because it might be a further story. Well, now you gotta tell me.
My theory right now is that this is obviously not the real Crime Master. He sent a patsy to get caught, and whatever. Should I say or should I leave it?
Tell me after.
Okay, I'll
just
say it.
Just say it.
Okay, what I saw online, I saw somewhere, I don't even remember where, it said that Bennett Branch was the Crime Master, which was Betty's brother who died.
Oh.
And so I was like, that's going to be such a cool plot twist. He faked his death. He's the Crime Master. And then that just totally didn't happen at all.
Where'd you see this? Was it Wiki? Because then
it was somewhere. It might still happen. Like, I think he does end up coming back. I just don't think it'll be as big of a...
Yeah, I don't even know if the Crime... I've seen the Crime Master, like, on any covers or anything.
He's on, is he on 36? Is that him?
Check.
He comes back for sure.
Oh, then that's
even in the modern comics, he's around. But it's kind of one of those like characters where the identity changes, but the title sticks type of thing. But yeah, so I was actually genuinely surprised by the ending because I wasn't expecting that.
I mean, no, he's not on 36. He might be in 36, but it's not on 36. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know who it was. The whole time I was like, oh, okay. It's not Foswell. He must be a good guy. And then it was like, oh, he's the Patch character. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they had me going on a roller coaster of emotions there.
As soon as I saw Patch, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure that's Foswell.
It is wild how the Crime Master, though, was legitimately gunned down. He was killed.
Murder.
Yeah, and in his last breath was trying to reveal who the Green Goblin was, but died too soon. So I didn't know about all that. I don't know why. Like, I had these 2 issues. I've read them before. But it's really interesting how close it, like, his identity was to being known. Also, the only person that knew who his identity was is now dead. So, Green Goblin once again isn't
not the real Crime Master.
Very true.
Which I suspect, even without knowing the Bennett Brandt thing, like, that death was too, like...
It was weird. I felt it was weird, too. I didn't know about that.
So I was like, okay, there's no way that's the real Crime Master. He has to come back. But
it goes to show you that Stanley's really killing people off.
He is.
Like, there's some weight. There could be some weight to these stories, even though that I guess people might think about these early issues as like, take a shot, early issues.
In these early issues, yeah.
In these early issues, you got to
put that on a t-shirt.
For real. Nah, I lost my. Oh, I was talking about t-shirts.
You would think that there's not going to be a lot of like big.
Yes, that you think they'd be like very childish and that it's just happy-go-lucky, but people are dying. I mean, that guy with Scorpion died.
Okay, Scorpion died. Crime Master died.
Crime Master. I guess Uncle Ben, but that's
Bennett Brant died.
Bennett. Yeah, Bennett Brant died.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. Another classic thing that happened in this issue: going to the sewers. Spider-Man gets sprayed with some toxic gas. Makes a web helmet to get through the gas. Keep chugging along. So a classic.
He's getting smart.
He's been.
I want to call out one of my favorite panels of art that we've had so far. I took a screenshot and saved this because I'm going to use it somewhere. I'll show it on the camera here, but the panel, for anyone who read along, page 4, bottom panel, where Spider-Man's breaking out of the chains, I love that panel. I mean, you have the yellow accent lines around it, just really emphasizing it, and he straight up just flexes his chest muscles and busts out of these chains. I just think the art is really good in that panel. I think Steve Ditko outdid himself there.
I will. There goes my dog. I mean, I think she's like, you know what?
Episode.
I think she's like, oh, it's Monday. It's Monday at around 8:00. Let's just start barking. I think she's like, I gotta do it.
I just want to one little aside, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. My mom sometimes listens to these episodes, and I always think that's hilarious because she's never read any of these comics. I was talking to her today, and she goes, I want to meet JP's dog. And I was like, that's what I've been saying. Like, this dog needs to make a cameo in every episode. I think that's just my favorite gag that we've had so far. It's just
I don't even try. She just does what she does.
Exactly.
She lives her life.
It's just the funniest. I love it. So
I'll tell you, she cries a lot, but the barking that she's doing, she rarely does that. Because I know what she's doing. She's playing right now, like she's playing with a toy, and that she barks when she does that. She only does that when I'm doing it.
Oh man, one of these
like,
episodes,
literally.
man, you got to bring her in. Like,
not
for a while, maybe like.
The 100th issue or something.
Yeah, like some milestone, because I think she's gonna cameo in every episode. Like, it's happened I think it's probably happened all 6 episodes we've done so far.
Pretty incredible. No, definitely.
But
I will counter your Norman Osborn thing.
Mm-hmm.
Page 18. Top right panel. That is Norman Osborn. Now it isn't Norman Osborn.
Oh yeah, he's back again. He's back again.
But that's not him though.
It's the same character from last issue. Why would he appear in both issues that both have the Green Goblin? It's the same. He's wearing a green tie.
Because that's Norman Osborn. That is
exactly.
Fully.
It's the same character from last issue.
It is.
Yeah, it's the exact. Go back and look at it. It's the exact same face, exact same hair. He's wearing a green tie. He's appearing in the issue with the Green Goblin, and I bet if you look at the end. Okay. I was looking at the end where it shows Green Goblin without his face. I was seeing if he was wearing the same suit, but it's a different suit. But that could just be a different day. I'm telling you, they're starting to sprinkle Norman Osborn in there just as little teases.
There was also a point that was pretty funny because they keep, even though Human Torch hasn't been around, which has been good for me, I've been enjoying his absence.
Yep.
They did put a little nod to him when Spider-Man went to go back to get his camera. Some kids found it, and he was like, with my luck, I don't want any autographs. I'm gonna stab myself with a pencil. Get poisoning from the pencil. He's like, let's not tell him I'm a Human Torch fan anyway. So there's still, it's pretty great. He's just riding that home.
Yeah, still.
But this is, at the end of this issue, it's what I've been talking about. You've been talking about what's going on his motive. It doesn't make sense. I told you directly. I said, hey, listen. I says, he wanted to become the leader of the underworld. Spider-Man kept getting in his way, and he became obsessed. And at the end of this issue is when I finally have what I've been saying. Literally, I think he says it. He goes, everything I've been trying to do, he gets in my way. I won't stop until he's done for.
But he says something interesting. He says, I'm going to take a break from my crime career till he's forgotten about me.
Exactly.
Which I think the next time he appears is what, 39?
And so I was also going to say that we don't see him until issue 39.
That's another over 10 issues.
Yeah.
And that's a big one.
Right. Obviously, yes. One of the biggest.
So this is setting up the ultimate face-off.
But,
I mean, for anyone who hasn't read these issues, if you're reading along with us, when we get to 39 and 40, that is our first major event in Spider-Man's mythos. Aside from the death of Uncle Ben and all that.
We do see Norman Osborn in issue 37.
Yeah, or 38.
37.
No, 37.
And we see Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn in issue 31, which will be an next episode.
Yes, sir.
But pretty good. I enjoyed the end of it. I love when he's holding up the mask. His suit is purple and green.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I think it's really interesting. I do. This is the Green Goblin we all know. Right here in these two panels at the end is when he becomes the Green Goblin we all know.
That's why
he becomes more sinister.
These two are my favorite Green Goblin ones because they're really he's done being a bit of an idiot, to be honest, and he's starting to be a serious threat to Spider-Man. I mean, he's beaten him multiple times. Now he's got a vengeance that he's coming at him with, and like you said, I mean, this is setting up the ultimate climax with him. And I think that's
it even
says, super awesome.
I think he took a turn in this issue for sure. I think he'd just become deranged at the end of this because he, like, Stan Lee even says, with burning hatred in his evil heart, to introduce the Green Goblin and what he's talking about. Guy's gone off the deep end.
It's about to get crazy.
Last time Steve Ditko will draw the Green Goblin.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Does he not have any other cameos or anything?
Unless it's a cameo. He might have a cameo.
We'll have to see. We'll look for it. Yeah, this might be the last time Steve... That's a good way to cap it off for his run. Which we're going to be getting to the end of his run, not next episode, but the one after that. So we're coming up on the genre.
We also have to make sure that we do 39 and 40 in the same episode.
Oh, we'll time it. We'll time it well.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
That's something for a different time. But I really, really like these issues. That, like, I don't know. You really feel a sense, like, we've read issue 1 through 27 now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's connected. Like, you still feel like everything that happened in issue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is like this Spider-Man can think about it immediately, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember when this happened and this and this. Like, it just feels very connected. It feels very like I've actually been following a story or watching a TV show.
Yep.
Quote unquote. It's
which
really enjoying it.
Is what I love about the concept of ongoing comic books. I mean, people talk about like independent books, right? You have like new series coming out, Walking Dead, Saga, all these books that are really good. But something to me about reading Amazing Spider-Man issue 800, and you have all of this history behind it. That's why I'm really looking forward to reading through all of these issues. Because like you said, now we're at the point where it's all connected. I think it will maintain some of that. I think we just maybe, having never read them in that order, I think it's going to be a really different experience.
It'd be very cool. But this definitely wraps up the Green Goblin's original arc.
Yeah. This is the end of the first era of the Green Goblin, where he's just a villain, right?
Right.
He's about to become his nemesis.
Now, speaking of which, I actually figured this out before I started reading these issues. I was just looking. I have like a website where it shows all the covers, so I just know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I realized that Doc Ock's not going to appear until like issue 50.
He's gone for a while.
5, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Because Sister 6 into like 50, I think it's 55 or something.
He might. Does he appear in any of the annuals? Because we're not reading all of those.
No.
Okay, yeah. In case you guys haven't figured it out yet, we're not reading every annual. We read annual 1 because of First Prince Sister 6, but I don't think we'll probably read many of them from here on out just because it's not really...
Yeah, it's 53.
It makes it hard to keep the numbering going well, and
It's 53. It says, look who's back.
Oh, yeah.
On the cover.
What year did that come out?
Not sure.
I guess we'll figure out when we're there, but that's a few years where Doc Ock was gone, so maybe he wasn't a fan.
But then that goes into a 4-issue storyline. So.
Yeah, he is a huge one. So rating on 27. We agreed on 7.5. You're saying 8?
The ending really gave it to me.
I am going to rate this a 7. I liked the first part better.
Fair enough.
This one is mostly just action. I enjoy action, but also it's like, comic book action, especially in the 60s, can get a little bit just like bam, pow, and it's not that interesting. The ending with Crime Master being shot and all of that was interesting, and that's why I'm rating it a 7. Like, it's still really good, but I just think the first one was a lot more fun, especially with that ending.
I think it's an 8, but I'm biased.
Yeah, you're a little biased.
It's a biased 8.
Yep. Mine's an unbiased 7.
So yeah, scale it down. It's like 7. Inflation.
So we're on the same playing field still.
Yeah.
We'll see if that continues. Diving into the next
Issue 28.
issue. 28. Now, you
It's all
mentioned
you. I'm gonna
earlier
take
in the
that.
episode, I think you mentioned that you really liked this one.
I did. I didn't mention that, but I do. I said that I think it was the sleeper one. I had zero expectations for this book, and I was surprised.
I had some expectations because I remember growing up buying back issues, really liking Molten Man. I always kind of wanted his first appearance. I don't have it. I have 35, which I think is his second appearance. I have 173, which is a Bronze Age appearance of him. I don't know. I just always thought he was cool. I was kind of disappointed with this issue. This was probably the weakest one in the episode for me. But before we discuss that further, summary. This issue is the first appearance of the Molten Man, as we just mentioned. It's also Peter Parker's graduation from high school. So we have officially ended the high school era of Spider-Man. But starts with a splash page, The Menace of the Molten Man. And this actually kind of ties back some story elements from the past couple issues that we've already discussed this episode, specifically Alistair Smythe. Because Peter wants to try and get his costume back. So he goes to J. Jonah Jameson, and he's like, where's Spider-Man's costume? And JJ says, oh, Smythe has it. So he makes a plan to go and see Smythe. And he has a plan to swap it out and get his costume back. And while he's there, one of Smythe's, I guess, co-workers or partners comes and kind of confronts him about another science project they have. Meanwhile, Peter's getting attacked by the Spider Slayer again, but, you know, he's just trying not to get outed as Spider-Man. But this partner of Smythe's takes this vat of liquid, and he punches Smythe, and he starts running away with the liquid, and he drops and breaks it, spills it all over himself, and his skin becomes molten metal. And so he immediately just kind of goes crazy, and he leaves, and he just starts punching cars, and just goes on this rampage. He's like, the power went straight to his head, basically. So Spider-Man goes and follows him because he saw this all happen, and he ends up finding him. They have a very long fight where Spider-Man realizes he can't hurt this guy. Every punch he gives, every kick he gives, he stops pulling his punches. He tries hitting him as hard as he can, and the guy just does not seem fazed. He just cannot actually hurt him with blunt damage. But he ultimately ends up outsmarting him by webbing him up, getting him tied up, and then the police come and arrest him so that he can go and catch his graduation on time, which reminded me a lot of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, when he is out being Spider-Man right before his graduation and just barely makes it on time. So there's a little bit of the influence for the movies there. And then the issue ultimately ends with Liz basically saying goodbye forever. She's like, I'm not going to really see you again. I'm over you. Go be with your Mary Jane. And Peter's like, Mary Jane? Who the heck? I don't know who that is.
She's probably ugly.
Yeah, she's hideous. And then that's kind of the end of the story. Oh, the other big thing is that Flash is going to Empire State with Peter, so they're just going to continue to be together at college.
Both on scholarships. Very interesting.
So how you said this was the sleeper issue. What was it that stood out to you about him?
I really enjoyed the two-part story. I think it felt like a two-part story. It wasn't a two-part story, right? But like, I enjoyed that it wasn't just one full issue of the Molten Man or one full issue of the graduation. I enjoyed they kind of split it into two different segments. It kept it fresh for me, because if I had to read a whole issue about the Molten Man, I'd probably get a little bit bored.
Yeah, fair. He's probably one of the less interesting villains that have come out.
Right. I thought it was really interesting that Peter actually got to see the origin right in front of his eyes of a villain he was going to fight. I think that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that he was smart enough to bring a jar of spiders. So I guess that if he got entangled in his little thing, he can, make that excuse.
He's like, here, Smythe, I brought you a jar of spiders.
It's for your research. That's why I got entangled in your robot again.
Yep.
But again, I think it was a really cool way to bring that character back and also the robot back and tie it into issue 25 was pretty interesting. And then have it also be the kind of the cause of this villain. I think it was nice. I think it wasn't just random, because some villains and some arcs have just been kind of random. Like, it's a guy, radiation, crazy.
Connected the stories a little bit.
Exactly.
My biggest thing with Molten Man, and why I was a little disappointed reading this issue, because I did remember him fondly, his motivation is just kind of lacking. I mean, he just kind of comes in and he's like, disgruntled partner, that, whatever. But then he becomes Molten and he's just like, I'm gonna crush some cars now. Like, he just kind of immediately switches over to villain, which is not the first time Stanley has done this with a character. I mean, you saw it happen with Scorpion, you saw it happen with Doc Ock. I mean, all these characters, and some of them had a little bit better explanation for it. I feel like this didn't really give enough reason for why he just kind of went off the deep end.
Just seems like it was kind of a Scorpion thing where he was already some type of criminal or some type of
A bit of a jackass.
His morals weren't all there and just immediately went power crazy.
I might be remembering incorrectly, but I swear later on in the Spider-Man comics, Molten Man becomes kind of a sympathetic character.
So that's what I was saying. When I don't know anything about Molten Man. This is probably my first Molten Man issue I've ever read in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to be a sympathetic character. I thought coming into this that he was going to accidentally become the Molten Man, and it was going to be bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to be misunderstood, but that wasn't it.
I think that would have been better. Like, if he became Molten Man and then was leaving, kind of like Jamie Foxx's Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2 at the beginning, where he's not doing it on purpose and he's, like, maybe just melting, like, the doorknob as he leaves and melting a car outside. Like, maybe he tries to get in a taxi and melts the... I think that would have been more interesting, where he's like, I'm not trying to do this, and Spider-Man's just kind of being a little bit more arrogant and being like, hey, stop that. I think would have been a better angle to approach it, but instead he's just like, I have power. I can beat up Spider-Man now. And it's like... not the most interesting motive.
But it was... I went into it thinking it was going to be like that, and then when it wasn't, I was like, okay. Like, I kind of enjoyed it. Well, not enjoyed it, but I was happy that I couldn't guess what was going to happen.
I do think it's funny. You look at the cover, and also knowing Molten Man's appearance later, he's a buff dude, right? When you first see, I think his name is Raxton, he kind of seems like a puny dude, and I was like, that's the Molten Man? Like, that doesn't look right at all. And then progressively through their fight, he's just slowly getting more and more naked. Larger. He gets beefier and more naked. Like, they rip off his shirt, they rip off his... They rip off his pants. Like,
he rips off... He had pants on and he rips them off in the shorts saying, this is my new appearance. Everyone will know that I'm the Molten Man now.
He progressively gets more naked as they're fighting, which that I got a kick out of. I thought that was funny. And I think by the end he's like almost completely naked.
Literally, he literally rips his pants into shorts saying, this is my look.
Yeah.
This is the new me.
Probably my biggest thing that I did enjoy about this issue, and ultimately when we do rate it, probably what's going to be having me give it a higher rating rather than lower, is I think this is some of Steve Ditko's best art, in my opinion. Just because I think a lot of the scenes at the laboratory has that red background with the light kind of shining on him, similar to that panel in issue 3 that I really liked with Doc Ock getting blasted. I think that red, black, yellow contrast just looks really, really good. And then also the fight scene, which is where the cover is based off of, where they're in the dark and it's just black and you just see the yellow of Molten Man kind of glowing through the dark. Really, really good art. Really good art.
Yeah. I love to have this issue just to see what it actually looks like, those panels where it's like all black. Be very interested to see what it actually looks like on the paper.
That reminds me, you finished your first omnibus. How are you reading these?
No, I didn't. And it ends with Ditko's run at 38.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it ended at 25.
No, and it has like every appearance like in the annuals and stuff like that.
Oh wow. Okay.
This annual is really weird. Like it's like Doctor Strange or something weird.
Yeah, that's why I figured we could skip it because it's not a big deal.
But I will say this issue, what I also loved about it that I think really put it over the top for me and why it was a sleeper and I really enjoyed it. Classic Spider-Man. I know I said this before. Classic Spider-Man universe. JJ was on top of his game in this issue because, Spider-Man or Peter had sold pictures in the last issue to, a different newspaper, and so we knew he had to butter him up. He ended up being the speaker at his graduation. He obviously spoke about himself the whole time, and everyone hated him in the crowd, and they were moaning at him and whatever.
Yep.
And he goes over and, sweet talks Aunt May and Miss Watson. Not Mary Jane, but Mary Jane's mom or aunt or whatever. Yeah. And with Flash obviously and Liz stuff, which was really weird. Liz just completely cold turkeyed both Flash and Peter after the fight that they had.
Good for
Which
her.
good for her. No, I was about to say good for her for sticking to her guns. No,
Yeah,
really.
she's better than fucking both of them. Well,
Yeah.
better than the way they've treated her. Peter
No,
has
for
always
sure.
given her the cold shoulder. Flash is always a dickhead.
He's
So
just
I was
true.
happy to see that she's not just constantly being the like, oh, I pine after Peter. Like she's finally being like, you know what? I don't need you. I'll be myself.
No,
We've talked about feminism in these '60s comic books.
we have.
This is a bit of an improvement. I also got a good kick out of JJ trying to put the charm on Aunt May, and Aunt May being like, "What a lovely man," and just like kind of setting up a very distant future. Obviously, not intentionally setting it up, but her Aunt May and JJ end up having quite a bit of a. I don't want to say relationship because they don't date, but
Something.
something.
I don't actually know about that. But no, I think this was classic Peter Parker universe. And the fighting a new villain right before his graduation is top tier stuff. I think you look at the cover, you're like, ugh, Molten Man. At least that's what I do.
Yeah, he was
And
literally
you're
like,
like,
he's like, oh, I'll just
I'm
go pick up my costume before graduation, like it'll be a quick stop. And
yeah.
then he just ends up in a fight with this molten man.
Oh, we forgot to mention that's why he went to
To get his costume,
what's his
yeah,
name?
yeah.
Yeah, what's his name again?
Smythe.
Smythe?
Yeah, which
To
he
get
got
his
it back.
costume.
So
He did
got
get it
that.
back.
He swapped it out with
He
the
still
fake
can't
one.
he still can't find the one that Aunt May has.
Yeah.
So
We'll see if that shows up
she
again.
threw it out because she doesn't want him to wear it.
Maybe. But how would you
But-
rate this one? I mean, honestly, I think the story. I
Really enjoyed
agree. Smythe with the costume is good. The graduation is good. Molten Man's origin, really disappointing for me. I think based on the art that I really liked, and based on the fact that it is his graduation and all of that, I would rate this at like a 6.
Can I say something to you right now that might blow your mind?
What?
I'm doing 7.5 to 8 on this.
Is that higher than the Green Goblin ones?
No, it's as high. But and look, I don't know because I don't know. I really liked it. I feel like it's actually I could
Okay.
reread this. I could reread this again.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's classic Peter Parker universe. I feel like. And another thing I wanted to mention, he is how I see Spider-Man now. He's getting there. He's like more witty than ever. He's always joking with them. It's actually kind of at points funny, like actually funny. It's not just kind of
Yeah,
corny funny.
yeah.
It's like actually funny.
He is really
Um,
cracking the jokes.
And he also seems to know what he's doing. He even says it like he's like, I've been through this, or I'm hitting you really hard. I usually say these type of punches for big time villains, stuff like that. And it's like he's been through it. He's been Spider-Man for a couple of years. He's going into college now. He's matured. He's matured a lot more, maturing a lot more, and that's the Spider-Man, the Peter Parker I love the most.
What era? College era?
College to probably, the '90s issues.
I was gonna say
He's like living with Mary Jane and
my
stuff like that.
iconic, yeah, married to Mary Jane is my perfect Spider-Man, which we'll get there.
I do also like college Spider-Man.
Yeah, I have read very few of the issues in the college era, which is what we're getting up to now. So I'm really looking forward to this because we're gonna see some awesome stuff. 7.5 or 8. That is crazy. I am blown away by that. That is a shocker.
I am too. No, that's issue. What shocker is issue?
36, yeah. But this is the one that we were expecting potentially some disagreements.
There we go, everybody. Ding, ding, ding. Here's
The
round one.
last episode
Round two.
issue of this episode, issue number 29, which I do have. Let me pull my copy out.
I recently purchased this one. This is a new. Hey, what's up, you guys? It's JP from JP Creations back with a weekly pickups video.
Beautiful. I think I bought this at a convention. I don't remember which convention. Did I buy this at MegaCon when we were there?
You might have.
It's either MegaCon or it might have been SuperCon, which I went to a couple months after that. But I definitely bought it at a convention. Apparently paid $25.
That is a sweet deal. I paid
That's
40.
not bad. Yeah, I mean it's low grade, but $25 you're not gonna complain. Second appearance of the Scorpion has the classic never step on a Scorpion.
I always wanted this issue because of the tagline. I'm a sucker for taglines, as everybody is, I think, finding out.
It's a great cover, I think.
It's a great cover, and I recently got the second appearance of Lizard too. I obviously love first appearances of characters, but with certain characters, like the Scorpion, like the Lizard, like Doc Ock, I'm very interested in their second appearance.
Yep.
Because usually those characters have been defeated or they've been fixed or whatever, and it's like, how are they going to come back? That's what I was
agree.
really excited about
Yep.
with this issue, and for whatever reason, I thought it was going to be cool and fun and be a bit interesting how he came back, and
It's not. It's not at all. I do agree with what you're saying. I think second appearances, from a reading perspective and also from a collecting perspective, are very interesting because it's like they're bringing this character back for a reason, right? Like that character was popular. They're bringing it back. How are they going to do it? And I agree. We talked last episode. If you guys missed last episode, there was a bit of contention between us because I am not a fan of Scorpion's first appearance. I thought it was the worst book we read that episode. Probably the worst book we've read so far in the series. Going into this one, I was like, all right. And I said it last episode. I said, we'll see if 29 redeems Scorpion in my eyes. We'll see if his return is better than his first appearance.
man, oh man.
To summarize, and then we'll dive into our thoughts.
Should be quick.
On the splash page, you see Spider-Man fighting Scorpion. You're like, he's back. How did he? Whatever. It immediately is revealed. Page 1. He just breaks out of jail. And in the dumbest way possible. He pretends to be crazy so that they'll give him his Scorpion costume, which, by the way, was broken in issue 20, but it's repaired here. And he uses that, which I didn't think the costume was required for his strength. But apparently he needed it. Well, why did he need it to break out then?
Because he's Scorpion. The tail.
Inconsistencies. Anyway, he breaks out of jail and is immediately just like, now I'm free. Now I can go kill Jameson and Spider-Man, which we've known that it's a defining character trait of Scorpion, that his vengeance to get JJ. But, you know, nothing new here. So JJ gets warned by the police while Peter is there, which, by the way, just got to shout out this panel. Look at Peter's dreamy eyes right there.
He's handsome.
Looking good. The police come and say, hey, Scorpion's broken out. And JJ, in his own head, is like, I can't let anyone suspect that I had anything to do with him, so why would he come to get me? But on the outside, he's like, oh, you must be mistaken. I'm fine. He's not coming to kill me because, you know, why would he? But Peter obviously hears that Scorpion's free, and he's like, all right, I need to plan. I need to get Scorpion. So he goes swinging around town, thinking that he can bait Scorpion out. He goes, oh, Scorpion will see me, he'll attack me, and I can fight him. But of course, Scorpion's not an idiot, right? He sees Spider-Man swinging around, he goes, awesome, I'm going to go attack JJ while he's defenseless. So he goes, springing building to building, using his tail, which is admittedly very phallic-shaped, that one panel where it's extended out, you know.
That spike at the end.
Yeah. J. Jonah Jameson decides his brilliant plan is to post out that Spider-Man and Scorpion are partners in order to get Spider-Man's attention so that he'll protect him.
Another Raimi thing.
And Scorpion ultimately breaks into the Daily Bugle. Luckily, Spider-Man has a burst of intelligence where he goes, what am I thinking? I'm swinging around. He's probably attacking JJ. So he shows up just in time to save JJ, of course. Another fight scene in the Daily Bugle. It's been done before. It's happening again. Ned Leeds is back, and he's protecting Betty, which Spider-Man is not a fan of. But they have a nice long fight scene in the Daily Bugle before leaving and fighting out on the buildings. It's really, this whole issue is just like one huge fight scene before they dive into the water, and Spider-Man fights him in the water. We'll talk more about that in a second. He ultimately beats Scorpion, webs him up, and he goes back to prison. And I stand by it. Scorpion is the worst of Spider-Man's rogues gallery so far, and that is including the Enforcers.
What about the clown?
The clown is the best, okay? The clown is my favorite.
Princess Python's like F tier, dude.
Scorpion, if I'm reading these in the 60s, I'm picking up these books. If I read 20 and I read 29, I'm going, screw the Scorpion, man. Don't bring him back. He's boring.
Issue 29 was...
He's boring.
Very disappointing. Now, I am a big Scorpion guy, okay? I love the Scorpion. He's in my top 6 favorite.
He's boring.
Number 5 and number 6. I don't think he's boring. I think he gets better as he goes along. I don't know when he appears in his third appearance. I don't think it's anytime soon whatsoever. I would have to check at least the covers or just check it out.
I was going to say, I think the readers back in the 60s felt the same way that I do, because they did not bring Scorpion back for a while.
Do you know how long?
I don't know when, but I don't think there's another Silver Age appearance of Scorpion. I don't think he's back until like the Bronze Age in the hundreds.
Yeah, I agree, which is insane. But maybe with that he'll become more of how I see him, as just a real cool guy. Um, no, just like a brute with a tail and a sick dude. The muscle of a group. Anyway, uh, definitely very disappointing. Um, they could have done him in a lot of different cool ways. I think this was very early issue.
He's just boring.
Stuff. I don't think he's boring. I mean, don't be rude.
I think
I literally wrote. I wrote this is okay. I wrote issue 29. Very excited. Sigh. Okay. Word.
That was how I felt, man. And I was going in with less excitement than you were. I was going into it like hoping that this would redeem Scorpion in my eyes.
Issue 28. Issue 28. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 points. For this one, I have 3.
Yeah.
Very excited. Okay. Word. And then something about foreshadowing, which we will say. At some point in these issues, Spider-Man hears J. Jonah Jameson talking about, we have to go send reporters out or something like that for a cat burglar and some stolen science stuff. I'm pretty sure that will be next issue 30.
It is, yep. First appearance of the cat.
So they are foreshadowing that.
Yeah,
pretty
which
nice.
The cat is a pretty awesome character because that leads into one of my favorite side characters in the Spider-Man mythos. We're not going to be there for a while, but I'm excited for when we do. However, this issue, the only parts of this issue that I liked at all were the parts that didn't have the Scorpion in it. Ned Leeds being back, him and Betty can actually be a thing, and Betty and Peter can stop being a thing.
I am so done. Sorry, go ahead.
What were you
I'm
saying?
just so done. I'm just so done with Betty, dude.
I'm over it. I'm over Betty. And so I think now Betty's gone, Liz is gone. We're ready to dive into the college area, meet Gwen Stacy, meet Mary Jane, get into the love interests that are actually have some impact on the Spider-Man series. Scorpion, I have nothing else to say about Scorpion. The action scenes, I don't really care. It's cool. It's some cool art. I'll give him that. But his character, I just don't care. And I feel like the readers feel the same way. That's why they don't bring him back. Because if it was popular, they would bring him back. You know what I mean? So I think they probably just never planned to bring him back. And then some writer down the line goes like, hey, remember that Scorpion character? Let's make him better.
And I think that's when he will get better. Yeah. It's his first 2 issues. He's in jail. Let's see how they bring him back. Excited for his third appearance. To see how they bring him back the third time, hopefully a little bit more creatively, and
I think
just go to jail for the issue.
Scorpion, not Stan Lee's best work. I think, whenever he is brought back, which we don't really know, but I think it's a different writer, and I think that they will probably bring him back in a better way, which is what made him such an iconic villain. Because honestly, based off of these 2 appearances, he's hardly deserves a place in the Rogues Hall of Fame for Spider-Man.
At this point, yeah, but I mean down the line, obviously.
Yeah, down the line, but not yet. This panel of him climbing up, he looks so stupid. I
really like his grimacing face, though.
It's just I just don't like the Scorpion. I don't like him. I want that to change, and I know that at some point, like I've read modern books, Scorpion is cool. He's so lame in these issues. He has no motive. He has nothing. I was very disappointed.
So, from what I'm seeing here, wow, very interesting. Scorpion doesn't appear. This was in 1965.
Yeah.
He doesn't appear until 1970 in Captain America, issue 121. Then he doesn't appear again until 1972 in Captain America 150, 151, and 152.
When is his next Spider-Man appearance?
150, 145 in 1975.
Oh, that's right, 145. Yeah. 10 years.
10 years later. Wow.
I think that's a good thing. I think, honestly, Stan Lee recognized, probably based off of like fan mail. I'm really interested to see next episode. I'm gonna actually make sure to read the letters in whatever issue has letters for this issue, because I want to see if the readers are like, Scorpion sucks.
I don't think, just from what I'm looking at, I don't think Scorpion becomes a big character until like the 2000s.
Yeah, I think the modern books. I think the Ultimate Spider-Man books are really what made Scorpion popular because they did him
And then
differently.
he was pretty big in the animated series too, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. Because you remember
So I would say the 90s to the 2000s, he probably got his.
when we talked about his first appearance, I mentioned that I was confused about his origin because I thought that his tail was fused with him. Like, I thought he was stuck in the costume. I think that's the Ultimate Comics they did that.
Yeah, that sounds
And
alright.
that makes him way more interesting as a character. I think they ended up
Yep.
adapting it into the main universe at some point, but that makes him way more interesting. Scorpion, lame, rating on this issue, 2.0.
I give it a 5.
I'm only giving it 2.0 because of JJ, because of Steve Ditko's art. I love the water fight scene, is pretty cool. It has Spider-Man talking underwater, and that doesn't make any sense, but it's still cool. 2.0.
I give it a 4.5 actually.
Hard pass.
4.5. We'll see you in 10 years, Scorpy.
You also mentioned foreshadowing. They do foreshadow the cat, but they foreshadow something else, which we will be talking about in the next episode. Aunt May starts to feel a little bit ill at the end of this issue.
That's right.
We are coming up on one of the most iconic Spider-Man stories of all time, and we're going to be diving into that in the next issue, which is... Or in the next episode. I always mix those two. Next episode, we are going to be reading issue number 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34. Another 5 issues. It's going to be featuring the first appearance of the cat. It's going to be featuring the return of Kraven the Hunter, which is going to be interesting. But most importantly, right in the middle of that 5 is a 3-issue story arc that is one of the greats. I mean, it's in the Hall of Fame. I'm so excited to read it because I've never actually read it before.
Yep. Issue 31, Gwen Stacy, Harry Osborn, first appearance. Pretty sure it's his first day at college. These next 5 issues are not heavy first appearance wise, but they are heavy in terms of the Spider-Man as you know him.
Iconic story.
Yep.
I think I don't even need to ask which issue we're both looking forward to the most. I mean, I know I speak for myself when I say 33.
I like 30. I really am. Again, I can't with the bias. Don't know. Yeah, I'm excited to see Gwen Stacy show up, so I can say, "Oh, you're gonna get thrown off a bridge."
Whoa, spoilers, man!
All right, well, maybe a clock tower if you've seen the movie.
Spoilers.
And then Harry Osborn appearance.
Yeah, I am excited to see Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn. Those are some side characters that are obviously going to be sticking around for a long time. Some more than others.
I would say I'm excited for 34 to see Kraven the Hunter come back, but at this point, I think he's just probably going to go, oh, wait, I forgot that I was alive. I forgot my only purpose is to kill this guy. Let me just come back and then get defeated and leave again. After 29, I cannot be excited about a first appearance until I improve them.
Predictions. This is something I think that I would like to do now that we're getting to the books that we haven't read. I am looking forward to issue 30 because it's first appearance of the cat. And I'm interested. It feels like a 22. You know, like 22, I was going into it with very low expectations, and then it blew me away, just in terms of being fun. I feel like 30 is going to be similar, where, like, I've always thought of 30 as, like, who really cares? The cover's kind of forgettable. Like, I've never read it before. I think that's going to surprise me. 31, 32, 33, I'm really excited for. 33 is an obviously iconic cover. I don't have that issue. I want it so bad. 34, I will be very shocked if it has a good return of Kraven, like you mentioned. I think it's going to be the same kind of like, I guess I'll go kill Spider-Man now. And so hopefully I'll be wrong. Hopefully we'll both be wrong, and it'll be a good return of Kraven. Kraven is an interesting character. He's never been one of my favorites, but...
I'm excited for 31 too, because I see there's a scuba man, a lot of underwater. There's a lot of stuff going on in that cover as well. Mm-hmm. Man on a Rampage, issue 32, I'm pretty excited for, because he looks like he's just tearing it up.
A great cover. I love that cover.
And I'm issue 33, right? Yeah, I'm interested in issue 30 because I think, like you said, I don't even know the first thing that happens in that book.
Yeah.
So
same.
I don't know.
The only thing I know about the cat is that he's Black Cat's dad. So excited to see him as his own character and not the parent of another character. But that is it for this episode. We landed at about an hour 20, so great job.
Perfect.
So next week, like I said, if you want to read along with us, go ahead and read 30 through 34. I think the episode after that will probably be only 4 issues because we want to line it up to have 39 and 40 together.
I think
So
those should be their own episode.
probably could do a whole episode about those, but that episode's gonna be really good. We have some bangers coming out for you guys. Basically, is what I'm
It's
trying
coming.
to say. Next episode,
John Romita era coming.
John Romita era coming. Gwen Stacy, Harry Osborn, the climax of Green Goblin as Spider-Man's nemesis. We're about to meet the Rhino. We're about to meet Mary Jane. Lizard's coming back. Shocker's coming around. You don't want to miss this action, guys. So subscribe right here on the YouTube channel. Follow us if you listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you follow. Make sure you rate. Give us that 5-star. Go ahead and head over to YouTube. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this kind of slightly different format in our discussions. Looking for feedback for sure.
And hey, everyone loves Marvel. People love comic books. If you like our podcast, tell a friend. Listen, if I can tell my physical therapist about my podcast while he's massaging my back, I think you can tell a friend. And also rate 5 stars on Spotify.
And also rate 5 stars, yeah, of course. Yeah, if my mom can... No, I'm kidding. Definitely, yeah, share it with a friend.
Listen, DA's mom. If you're not out there telling your girlfriends about the podcast, okay? I don't know what you're doing. All right.
I told her not to. I was like, I do not need people showing up in my comments on YouTube. Like,
I think we do. I think she needs to download Spotify, and I think she needs to rate us 5 stars on there and whatever other platform.
I tell you what you really need to do, and this is the last thing I'm going to ask for you guys. I know we've asked a lot. We asked leave a like, rate, follow. The last thing I'm going to ask you to do, 2 things, actually. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do, go and follow us on our socials. Links on the screen there. Over on YouTube. At JP Creations on pretty much everything. At DA Comics on pretty much everything. We're both looking to start posting more. I know that we're not posting a bunch, but we are. So you want to follow us there. Second thing I'm going to ask you to do, go and read these comic books. Because seriously, I said it at the beginning. I'm going to say it at the end. Nothing beats reading the comic books yourself. Read along with us.
There's a lot of things we can't talk about. A lot of little things that you will never know about. You will never be able to enjoy if you don't read them yourself.
Yeah, like really the best experience with this podcast is to read along with us. So I heavily encourage you guys to do that. But with that said, I'm going to let you guys go. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Webheads Comic Club. Tell your friends. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Bye-bye.